Welcome back. This is Simplify. So that is Simplify Your Business. Melanie Rembrandt with David Wolf. Myself, Melanie, good morning.
Good morning, David. Good morning, everyone. How are you today?
So I heard them answer, but maybe it's just too much coffee and I'm starting to hear things. I don't know. I'm hearing content everywhere.
Gee, I wonder why. There are only,
So-
billions of websites out there and emails being thrown at you, and you hear content is king all the time.
Yeah, and I want to ask about this king thing. I mean, can it be a queen too? I mean, do we have to be gender
Of course.
specific?
It can be anything you want it
I
to
just
be.
want to clear the fog on that one because, don't want to offend any of our listeners.
Exactly.
So this is episode 2, not that we're numbering them, and they're not sequential, but it is the second one we're doing, which I'm happy for. You and I have worked together for a long, long time, and we've got a lot of stuff to share, but the whole point of this series, as you may or may not know, is to simplify your business, and with that, of course, your life. So.
Exactly. I mean, we know how it is to be an entrepreneur and small business owner, and you just don't have time for all of this going on out there. So the whole point of this is to give you simple points you can actually use for your business growth right away.
Bingo. So today's segment, in the interest of getting right to it, is content really king or queen? And why do you need it? So business owners, we talk about this thing called content marketing, content everywhere. Now I'm in the content business. Melanie, you're in the content business. I'm going to kick it over to you to kick this one off.
Well, you might not, why is content so important? It is important because it gives you the opportunity to share your unique message with your audience. It gives you control over your marketing, your sales, your public relations. It all has to come back to that. And while there's a lot of content out there, you still need it because it shows credibility and value, and your customers, want to hear from you and your company. And while there is a lot of information out there, it can be simplified, and that's what we're going to do. And you might hear like, I need a content marketing strategy.
Right.
Well, you know what, David, there's a few things you can do. What do they mean by that? I'm running my own business. What do I do? Here are a few. I can give you just a few steps so that you can get going on your content and get the information out there.
Yep, exactly. And so, everything you said, I totally agree with. Of course, it all folds into the work I do specifically in audio and podcast creation, which is content. I work in video as well, and all of this is true. Authority, positioning, beginning to train your audience how to language the stuff you do and sell, and also just getting intimate, particularly with podcast and radio. There's an intimacy there, like we have this now. We've got you and me together in one person's ear. And that's a really tight situation where we can talk and really be real and honest. And I think that revealing your true self to your customers or potential customers in the ecosystem of content distribution is really profoundly useful and powerful.
Exactly. And, if it isn't good information, David, they can just turn us off right now. So
and by the
we
way,
better be good.
They could do that. Yeah. Well, let me take another sip of caffeine here so that I can assure our audience that it's going to be good. All right. So should we take these questions on now?
Let's do that. Some things to start your content marketing strategy. The first thing you want to look at, what do your customers want? I mean, that's just key. I see all these sites and content. We do this, we do that. And I call them we sites because it's all about the company. And really, your customer just does not.
I like that. Hold on. Pause for the cause. A we site. So it's all about you instead of all about them, your customer. That's a fatal flaw.
It's easy to do. And how many times do you see this in a press release? We are so excited to announce our new business. Like, yawn, I don't care.
Oh, right. And you're in the PR world, so you encounter this a lot where they call you and they probably pounding their chest about this new thing they're doing. And it's like, no, I don't care. Talk to me about the results I'm going to get as a potential customer of your product or service.
Exactly. And if you don't know what your customers want, send out a quick survey or look at the feedback on social media. I mean, find out what they want. I mean, that's key to your success. So I think that's just the number one simple tip when it comes to content. Figure out first what your customers want.
And I heard recently, and this is kind of a cool thing. I think I heard it from David Garfinkel. You may know who that is, but he said something about when you're inventing a new product, and this is slightly out askew of what we're talking about for those existing businesses. But maybe you have a business and you want to create a new product. It was interesting. The idea was that if you start from the customer and write the sales letter before you even create the product or invest in it, it'll really get you in touch with asking the right question. What does my customer want?
Exactly. And, you can hire a trained copywriter, content marketing strategist, which is what I do. And, they know how to write the right way to increase sales and basically write quote unquote copy that sells. But when you're just starting out and you can't afford, to hire outside people,
Right.
It really just comes down to what do my customers want? I really have to think of them first.
Yep. All right. Good. This next piece, how are you going to distribute the content that you produce? So,
okay, so let's say you've come up with this piece of content. Now you've got to figure out how you're going to get it to the people that you want to see it. This goes back to kind of your analytics. Where are people coming from? Are they coming from mobile? Are they, would they listen to you via podcast? Do you need to send them a newsletter? I mean, you really need to think about that and organize it. Are you going to write a blog or an article? Are you going to do a video? So, once you figure out what your customers want and you write a piece of content, then you got to figure out how you're going to get it to the people who are going to listen to it. So,
this
or
is
watch
really
it.
critical. Yeah, it's kind of right up there with, remember the days when we used to say, build a website and they will come. Sorry. You got to figure out where your customers or prospects hang out, right?
Exactly. And it seems pretty apparent, but you forget about that. I mean, I'll just post a blog and everyone will see it. No, that doesn't happen. You really have to think about, how can I reach out to my customers with this valuable content? So,
and Melanie, when people call you, this is a part of what you do. I know in your work. I mean, you not only create the content, but you also come up with a strategic approach to getting it distributed. Right.
Exactly. I mean, you can spend hours and hours writing a great piece of content, but if no one sees it, does it exist?
Yeah, right. It's kind of the tree in the forest thing. And totally. No, and in my world on the podcast side, I mean, two questions I get asked most. How do you grow an audience? It's 3 questions. How do you grow an audience? How do people find me? And how do I actually get an ROI on this investment I'm making in doing a podcast? Those are the 3 questions I get. They may translate to other forms of content. Probably does, right? You got to spend something in energy or money to create videos or blogs or work with either of us. So we as content producers, you and I, have to be able to answer that question for the business owner as well. And then they have to understand how it folds into their overarching business strategy.
Exactly. And that kind of goes into my third tip. I mean, first you find out what your customers want, then you write the content and distribute it correctly. And the third thing is, how do you know if it's working? Well, you're going to want to set it up so that you can track a specific website address in Google, or you have them call a specific phone number. So when before you distribute your content, kind of think about, well, how am I going to track the results? Because then you can look at it and see how well your content worked. If it didn't work, you can go back and change it. If it did work, you know that you're hitting the right note with your customers.
Yeah, right. And you got to be real about this too. I'm watching this. You guys may have heard of, if you're on Facebook at all, that series called Masterclass, that whole new enterprise called Masterclass. So I'm watching the Ron Howard series on directing just because I'm interested in video and film and directing. I wanted to kind of get his view on watching work. And so he was talking last night as I was watching a lesson, whatever it was, 29 or something, about once you have a final cut, don't be afraid to really ask the viewers in your audience, how did you do? Were they transported? Did it work? Did it work for them? So you've got Ron Howard, a major Hollywood director that understands that part of the process here is you've got to ask your customer, in his case, the audience, is this working? And be prepared to tweak, revise, pivot as needed, because otherwise you're just in a vacuum and it's going to die a slow death or a fast death.
Exactly. And that's so important for small business owners, because if you're going to take the time and effort to write a piece of content, you don't want to waste, all the effort you've put into it. You want to make sure it works. So,
right.
You can really learn by your failures. So it's important to know that it might not work, but that, that's a good thing. You can learn from it.
So on the content thing, and then if you want to get a little more, again, we're about simplicity here, Melanie, but if you can do A/B testing, you can test things simultaneously. I mean, there's a whole array of things. Melanie's a total expert on this, so you want to reach out to her for sure on this idea of how to test, how to analyze, and how to measure. Because if you're not measuring, it's not going to happen.
Exactly. But, that can be a little overwhelming to, a small business owner too. So, we're trying to keep it simple. So basically just write a piece of content that you really think that your customers will value, and then track it to see how it works. That,
okay.
In a nutshell, that's pretty much it.
Yep. Beautiful. All right. Till next time. This is great. You are listening to Simplify. For more information, you can go to podcastingradio.com. Where we don't have anything beyond that right now set up, although the podcast that you're listening to, the series, Obviously, you've already found us, but you can find us on iTunes and Google Play and all the obvious places where podcasts are consumed. So we'll look forward to the next one. Melanie, thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.